However, the teachings on immigrants in particular seem to be pretty consistent and about things like compassion and remembering their humanity. I mean, just here's one verse. He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners in Egypt. So to me, it's very telling that there is such a vociferous, angry reaction to someone who didn't even say, like, don't deport them or don't do this, or he just said, show mercy and have some compassion, because these are human beings.
Okay, but what does compassion mean?
To me, that seems as...
What does compassion mean? Letting you stay here forever, right? Oh,
bro, what does compassion mean? This is the state of the right wing in America, guys.
Yeah, let's take a look. I thought this bishop, actually, speaking of doing a great job, I thought she did a great job. I loved that sermon that she gave. It was awesome to see not Pence, but JD Vance and his wife, and Trump and his wife squirm as they heard this message. So yeah, I'm excited for this too.
Oh yeah, and this is coming off of a debate they had 2 days prior where Saagar just goes full on defender of Elon Musk's Sig Heil. He's like, he was saying my heart goes out to these people. You're crazy if you don't think that. And I was like, no, Saagar, you're just being a pawn in his game. But let's take a look at this.
All right, let's go ahead and get to this sermon, which became quite controversial. A bishop who was presiding over services at the National Cathedral that Trump and Vance and the whole family attended after the inauguration had a special message for the president that ruffled quite a lot of feathers. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meatpacking plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger.
Woke.
For we were all once strangers.
Yeah, it's crazy. We were joking about this the other day. I think this is the first time we've actually played the clip on air. This is textbook Jesus Christ. Like, what she's saying right here would have come out of Jesus's mouth in the Bible had it been pertinent at the time. And yet these people are recoiling. They hate it. They actually hate and detest and reject the legitimate gospel. You know what I mean? Loving your neighbor, welcoming immigrants, not being prejudiced. You know what I mean? It's crazy to watch them recoil and squirm. And then the one thing I will give Usha Vance, she does seem to be a legitimate Christian. She's watching eyes locked in. This is what, the Reverend has to say or whatever.
I agree. She seems to at least be respect. I mean, she is, I don't know, maybe it's because of her family's immigrant heritage or something that she actually resonates more with what's being said. Who knows? But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like, do these Christians, these Catholics, do they actually think that if Jesus was alive today, he would be wearing a MAGA hat? I mean, come on. Obviously not.
Fucking crazy.
In this land.
So this triggered a total meltdown and angry freak out on the right, which went up to and included the president himself. We can put Trump's response here up on the screen. The so-called bishop who spoke at the National Prayer Service on Tuesday morning was a radical left hardline Trump hater. She brought her church into the world of politics in a very ungracious way.
That's true. I think that's true. Continue that.
Yeah. She was nasty in tone, not compelling or smart, failed to mention the large number of illegal migrants that came into our country and killed people. Many were deposited from jails and mental institutions. That party just makes up. It's a giant crime wave that is taking place in the USA. Also not true. Apart from her inappropriate statements, the service was a very boring and uninspiring one. She's not very good at her job. She and her church owe the public an apology for a very basic message of Christian mercy and
this is what
compassion.
I mean, Krystal. We're atheists, okay? This is what an atheist libs version of Christianity looks like.
But hold on a second.
Yeah.
What is
the actual text of the Bible? What the fuck?
What part of what she said, first of all, offends you, and second of all, what part of it is
what offends me
dissonant with the teachings of Jesus?
Well, I'm not Christian, so I won't get into the differences of Episcopal versus Catholic and all of that. And by the way, many of my Episcopal friends' exact complaint about the Episcopal Church is exactly about this. Basically, they'll ordain anybody, and that's why there's all these different offshoots and huge fights within the church over gay and BLM and all this stuff. So that's part of the reason why a lot of my friends, actually people like JD, became Catholic, is because of the actual doctrine that it sticks to. But this is getting over my skis because I'm not Christian. I'm not going to Christian-splain it to other people. It drives me nuts, not only with her or with others.
Well, kind of woke of Saagar to not want to Christian-splain. You know, wow, you too PC. Saagar's too afraid of the Christian woke mob coming after him.
Also, it's like we don't have to get the teachings of Christ involved to make a case for immigration. I don't think anyone on the left, I think most people on the left actually advocate for the separation of church and state. I can make the case for my ideology without getting Jesus involved. I'm not a Christian. I'm an atheist too. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't our choice to have this fucking prayer service sermon thing that the president of the United States was attending. I'm pretty sure that was either tradition or the choice of the incoming administration to do this. So yeah, if you're going to have an explicitly religious ceremony with an explicitly Christian bishop talking, then yeah, I think they have the right to talk about what's actually in the fucking Bible, what Jesus Christ actually said. Again, we can also just leave religion out of it entirely. We don't have to fucking, base any of our ideologies off of this archaic bullshit if we don't want to. But if you're going to force us to, then yeah, let's at least actually look at the fucking book in question. Let's actually study the teachings in question if you claim to live by them.
Oh, yeah. I pulled some up just in case we wanted to read some for the public. Exodus 12:49. The same law applies both to the native born and to the foreigner residing among you. What does that sound like? Equality for immigrants to me, huh? Fam, what about this? Do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner, for you were foreigners in Egypt. Boom. Christian doctrine right there. Cursed is anyone who withholds justice from the foreigner, the fatherless, or the widow. Then all the people shall say amen. Boom. Another one. In you they have treated their father and mother with contempt. In you they have oppressed the foreigner and mistreated the fatherless and the widow. Sounds bad. See, it sounds like it's bad to do those things according to the Bible. According to Christianity, again, I'm not here to speak for Christianity either. I don't believe in any of that nonsense. But what I do think is crazy is when we have the actual Bible verses here and you want to be like, the Bible would never say that. And we're like, we literally can look at what the Bible says and be like, well, is this the kind of thing that the Bible would say? Like studying any kind of a book, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. I could be like, oh, is this what Holden Caulfield would do? Let's look for context clues in The Catcher in the Rye. You know what I'm saying? We can do that in reality. And I chose to, and it debunked Saagar's entire argument.
Which with people who are, what is it, like preachers who take the pulpit under their tax-free status and then use it as a pulpit to preach politics. And so here again, like you're watching this message of this like glib-coded bishop, like explaining a political position and using that under the word of God.
Also, you know what's fucking bullshit about this? He keeps calling this bishop lib-coded because she's a woman, obviously. But what she said is actually not that much different than what Pope Francis routinely says on a regular basis. Saagar's like, yeah, J.D. Vance, my friend J.D. Vance became a Catholic because he's tired of the woke Episcopalians or some bullshit. Well, guess what? The Catholics leader, the Pope, says shit like this all the fucking time. The Pope will routinely call on Israel to like end the slaughter in Palestine. He'll talk about climate change. He'll, talk about all sorts of shit that Catholics hate. So what the fuck are you even talking about?
Yeah, great point. Great point about Pope Francis.
Point. And so that's why it annoys the crap out of me. My Christian friends, for them, it's a bastardization of their religion. But beyond that, it's really just about the bigger point of you're using your position.
Could you imagine? I'm sorry to interrupt so much. Could you imagine being Christian and being worried about the bastardization of your religion when you had Donald Trump run for president and get the full endorsement of all these fucking hack organizations
and say that God chose him?
Yeah,
because of the assassination myths or whatever. Like Donald Trump literally said on Inauguration Day, I'm chosen by God to lead this country. And Saagar wants to talk about people bastardizing Christianity because one bishop said, hey, let's have some humanity. Let's have some decency for our fellow human.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about the Catholic Church, Gavin, our number one sleuth over here, he's seen Spotlight. He remembers.
Cloaking it in the faith of the Bible, which is not 100% clear, okay? Anybody out there, the Christians themselves can't even agree on what it
We just read you like 4 quotes, all from Exodus, that all said, hey, be nice to your neighbors.
says.
And foreigners. Whoops, excuse me.
To then use that to push what is an overtly political point, it just seems ridiculous. So, and look, I mean, no one can call me a hypocrite on this. I can't stand all this pro-life preaching and all this other political activism. I think all of them should have to pay taxes. It's one of the biggest scams in the entire country. So any political Christianity or any of that, I'm totally out on.
Incredibly hypocritical for the right to complain about politics in the church when, I mean, the moral majority like explicitly argue with Falwell to vote for Ronald Reagan. Politics is a central part of the certainly evangelical, like you go to any of these mega churches and it is super political. And the truth of the matter is though, I mean, to the extent that politics and religion both have to do with your core values, which both of them do, I don't think you can really extricate politics completely from religion. But what's interesting to me, I mean,
but that's what they say. That's their justification for all of their political activism.
What's interesting to me, though, is that, I'm also not like, an expert on the Bible. However, the teachings on immigrants in particular seem to be pretty consistent and about things like compassion and remembering their humanity. I mean, just here's one verse. He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners in Egypt. So to me, it's very telling that there is such a vociferous, angry reaction to someone who didn't even say like, don't deport them or don't do this, or he just said, show mercy and have some compassion. Because these are human beings.
Okay, but what does compassion mean?
To me, that seems as...
What does compassion mean? Letting you stay here forever, right?
Bro, what does compassion mean? This is the state of the right wing in America, guys. Yeah, what he means is, can we separate you from your family at the border? Can we make sure that as your legal right of trying your case for asylum is processed over months and months and months, we can send you back to the hellhole that you came from? And I'm sorry, I'm not saying the country's a hellhole. I'm saying whatever circumstance you came from when you had to desperately flee and apply for asylum. Yeah, it's not good there. And guess who's responsible for that? Largely the United States. I guarantee you whatever consequential actions produced people's need to flee for America, more likely than not caused by us, okay? You want to talk about the mass immigration from Mexico? Let's talk about how we forced them into the drug war. What do you mean we forced them into the drug war? Meaning they did not want to ban drugs. They did not want to become a cartel state, which they knew exactly what would fucking happen, okay, if they did outlaw drugs. And then the United States said, we are not going to let you guys have insulin. Sorry, your people are going to start dying in fucking mass unless you ban these drugs and join our war on drugs. Oh, also, by the way, we're going to help facilitate with our CIA and alphabet agencies, making sure that drugs do get through your country and making sure that it is a really popular, very profitable business for people. And then we're going to rain hell on all of this. It's going to be a disaster. Oh, also we're going to fund dictators in Central America. We're going to do all of that. And then we're going to blame all of you guys when you want to leave. Yeah, that's what we've done. So maybe you're right, Saagar. What is humanity then? What is compassion? Compassion is being like, shit, I have to do the right thing now, which is own what we did, own the consequences of that, and make sure that we do better in the future.
Yep, 100%.
Anyway, we're going to keep reacting to this if you want to, but I mostly just wanted to watch Saagar.
It's taking a few more seconds.
To me, she didn't say that.
No, but that's the implication.
But to me, the fact that there is such outrage by an entire political ideological group by just asking to recognize people's basic humanity. And, what she said, again, I think is entirely consistent with the teachings of the Bible and, the message of Christianity and Jesus Christ, et cetera, that would be received so angrily is, to me, it's very telling. Because you don't see the policy implication,
Krystal, which is when she says compassion, she says, oh, they need to be able to stay here. When she says, transgender are afraid. It's like, because we want children not to be plugged full of hormones.
But what's so wrong with her having that view? And
there's nothing wrong with it. But you're cloaking it in Jesus. That's the issue.
You're also putting words in her
This is outrageous. It's completely disgusting for Saagar to not realize that you can have a message of compassion and humanity for trans people or for immigrants, even if you have a conservative or right-wing opinion. I think there are people out there that don't necessarily agree with us on the subject of trans healthcare or trans sports or the border, but they still genuinely feel that there needs to be a level of humanity and compassion and decency on a human level when we deal with these issues, right? It's not that hard to fucking figure out, right? You don't have to be a bleeding heart leftist radical to say we should treat our neighbor with respect. We should treat the disenfranchised with decency and compassion. Again, this should be something that people in power take seriously, not scoff at, as cringy as it sounds. So it's pretty crazy for Saagar to, keep going down that road. But also it's like, you're really going to act like it's the left that uses religion to cloak its policies and to justify its positions with? Are you fucking kidding me? The Republicans literally call themselves Christian nationalists. Trump literally just said he was chosen by God himself to make America great again on Inauguration Day. It's not the left fucking cloaking our politics and religion. We're the ones advocating for the separation of church and state. You guys are the ones insisting on explicitly branding yourself as a religious movement, and Saagar never pushes back on it, right? He claims, oh, I'm an atheist. I hate it when the right wing does it too. I can't stand all these pro-lifers using religion, but you never fucking talk about it, not nearly as much. It very rarely comes up. But as soon as someone on the left or some bishop who's maybe not even on the left, but just, actually cares about what Christ taught, as soon as she points this out, it's all of a sudden politically motivated. No, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, you make a great point when you talk about how people who might not even agree with us, people who we might find to have regressive views when it comes to immigration or LGBTQ issues, but in their hearts have compassion, right? They don't have animosity. They don't hate trans people. It's not like they want to get up on front of a webcam every day and bash these people. They're just like, oh, I don't really get it. Like, it's not my priority, right? But, whatever, right? I don't care. I don't wish ill will on anybody. I think that actually is a lot of Americans. Yeah. And I think a lot of Americans are also like, bro, I don't fucking know. I'm constantly hearing we have this immigration problem. I can't afford my rent. I'm not getting a raise. Like, we got to fucking do something about this. I'm giving it a shot. I think that's a ton of the country, right? Those are the people that we're going after, right? The people who I don't have a single bit of interest in going after are the people like Saagar. The people who are rah, like, I hate it when there's any compassion in my, Christian messaging. Like, I just want to be told hateful things. I don't care if they're going to say, something super regressive in church, because then I can kind of justify it to myself and I actually enjoy it. But as soon as they branch out and say something like, hey, we should love trans children and we should make sure that they're not afraid, and we should also be welcoming to people who come here regardless of their immigration status, yada, 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 that's a bridge too far. I think that is the litmus test for us over here. People like Jake Huger always saying the left doesn't want to go after anybody. They want to just sequester themselves off. And it's like, no, dude, I don't want to go after the Charlie Kirks of the world. I don't want to go after the people who proudly identify as the Christian nationalist. I don't want to go after the people who want to give Elon Musk the benefit of the doubt after he supports a far-right party in Germany with millions of dollars and then does a Sieg Heil at inauguration in America, the United States of America, a country where countless people, dude, fucking my own grandfather fought in the fucking World War II. My great-grandfather fought in World War II in the Pacific as a Marine. Okay, these motherfuckers went over there and they fought fascists and died. That's American patriotism to me. That's the legacy I want to remember. Those motherfuckers that says when my grandpa was a 20-year-old kid, okay, think about that, 7 years younger than me, his ass gets put on a plane to go fight in the South Pacific. Okay, because they're like, hey, dude, the world could be all over. And he was doing that in the 1940s, the early 40s. He was over there. It was crazy. I remember he never talked about it. I didn't find out until he fucking died. It was crazy.
Damn, I didn't. That's crazy. Yeah,
that guy died from smoking cigarettes. He was a real one.
Damn, shout out to that dude. But yeah, fighting Nazis, that's badass. And yeah, Saagar's just crazy, bro. I just can't imagine hearing this basic message of compassion and empathy and not being able to at least agree on the surface level that yes, we should uphold some level of human decency, some level of compassion, even if we're going to orchestrate these, deportations or whatever he's in favor of, right? It's pretty crazy. It seems like I literally feel sometimes like Saagar is one sentence away from saying, got to start culling the disabled because they're not contributing enough to American society. Got to get rid of the disabled. You can't have too much compassion for people that don't contribute and make this country great. Is that really that much different than advocating for the mass deportation and essentially execution of hundreds of thousands of fucking migrants in this country?
it honestly, you know that feeling you get when you're on the Mamba, Gavin, and your stomach sinks a little bit. When you said that to me, it kind of happened because I think that I think that's something we have to actually be vigilant about. He's laughing because it's so fucked up that that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see things like the Americans with Disabilities Act rolled back. I wouldn't be surprised, guys. It sounds unfathomable. Donald Trump just undid the executive order from Lyndon Johnson to stop racial discrimination at work, to stop gender discrimination at work. Everybody wants to be like, you guys are overreacting. You guys are just being hysterical. You guys are liberals, except that you lost. I'm like, no, dude. The fact that we lost makes me way more afraid because now they get to do all that shit that I was horribly afraid of. Okay, now Pete Hegseth is confirmed as the fucking Secretary of Defense. Okay, now we've got Marco Rubio as a Secretary of State. Now we've got Linda McMahon as Secretary of Education. Now we've got all of these ridiculous fascists in power, and that makes me uncomfortable. And yeah, Gavin, I do think there's going to be a certain point where they say, why are we carrying the load for these people? And that is going to be a fundamental moment for the left. That is going to be a critical moment for the left because there are going to be people that you don't expect that, you know, they break the wrong way on that issue. And I don't know. You don't even want to put that in anybody's, like the idea in anybody's head, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's an issue that we have to start defending and say like, hey, no, everybody is entitled to government care. Everybody's entitled to, you know, it's like, we want everybody to have a baseline quality of life in the country that I live in and enjoy. And in the richest country in the world, it's well within our possibility, or, you know, the realm of possibility. It's feasible. You know, we don't have too many people. We just have too much greed.
Yep, 100%. And luckily, some people in our chat were pointing out that usually the Breaking Points comment section agrees with Saagar instead of Krystal. Luckily, that doesn't seem to be the case. I think Saagar actually crossed a bit of a line here, perhaps, with some of his comments, because even the Breaking Points comment section is calling him out, and even a correction apparently had to be offered from Saagar. It says due process does apply to all persons in the U.S. However, immigrants in the country illegally may be deported without hearing. Apologies for the error. So, you know, Saagar clearly got a little bit self-conscious there because of the backlash and felt like he had to offer this correction. Maybe he just felt like he had to do that independent from the backlash, but I think it might have contributed to it. But yeah, a lot of these comments seem to think that Krystal is actually on point. The point that Krystal is making about the church being tied to politics is evident in the fact that our president was being televised going to church in the first place. Thank you. Again, Saagar wants to act like it's the left using religion. No, it's the opposite. This lady just happened to actually have read the fucking Bible.
Yeah, Saagar thinks Jesus was too woke. That's the point I was making. It's like, there is no way to argue this. Now, is there a bunch of regressive shit in the Bible? Yeah, but it's not really about illegal immigrants. I'm sorry, it's not. And a lot of the stuff that it says is bad and is immoral, Saagar doesn't give a single fuck about. Do you think that Saagar's out here scolding people for eating shellfish? Hello, nobody cares about that, but it's in the Bible, right? Do you think Saagar's out here scolding people because they were clothes with two different kinds of fabrics?
Well, he actually makes that point later in this debate and says, like, in the same way, I don't care about that. I don't care what Jesus said about immigration. So he does address it.
Oh, good. I didn't get that far.
Right. But it is still the case that, again, you might not care about religion, but your freaking party does. Your team does. They're the ones constantly cloaking everything they do in religion. And now you're accusing the left of doing that because
then how can you get outraged by it? That's
exactly. Either way, you know, luckily, the comment section seems to disagree with Saagar. Once again, here's a very top-rated comment. The image of this lady telling the president and the vice president not to hate immigrants while they're seated next to their immigrant wives is too absurd for parody. And that is a great point. Both Melania and Usha Vance are immigrants. So that's pretty insane. Saagar's lack of understanding of Christianity is actually kind of shocking. And he's a real jerk, especially at the end.
Wait, what happens at the end? Because I watched like maybe the first 10 minutes of this.
To be honest, I didn't quite get to the very end myself. We can react to it if you want to.
No, I'll watch it after this is over. Sorry, guys. I don't want you guys to think I didn't do my homework because they did have a spicy debate for like the first 11
I mean, the whole fucking thing is a pretty spicy debate.
Yeah.
For sure. And I really appreciate the fact that, as much as I disagree with Saagar, I do appreciate the fact that they're posting these like 30-minute long debates, you know, full thorough discussions, not just a quick 5-minute back and forth where they straw man each other, but an actual understanding, or at least attempt at that.
Yeah. Also, while we're on this topic, I thought it would be good to respond to this question. CrossCorp. Hey, Silly and Billy, hope you guys don't hold your smoke for Saagar with Krystal. I know they are your friends, but he is definitely no longer independent. I have never held my smoke for Saagar ever in my life. I don't think that that's going to be the topic of our conversation with Krystal when she comes on our show, because Krystal never holds her smoke for Saagar either. I think that's one of the things that makes Breaking Points work. They just debated for half hour. As Gavin said, they went fucking deep into it. I think a little birdie sent it to us the other day, and I was listening to it while I was drinking my coffee, and I was like, oh yeah, this will be good content. We'll react to it on the show. And yeah, it's a full fleshed out half-hour conversation. I mean, they must have been recording for a couple hours that day. So we'll definitely always, criticize Saagar when we find it necessary, but I'm also not going to have Krystal on our show just to scream at her about a take that her co-host had.
I plan on doing that.
Yeah, that's Gavin's job. I'm the good cop. I want Krystal to like me.
Here's what I'll say. I totally agree with Zach. I think that, yeah, obviously we've never held our smoke for Saagar. Never once. And we've always given Krystal credit for properly dealing with him. I think there would be a version of the show where it was not properly dealt with. And a lot of the stuff, was said and not pushed back upon. Luckily, Krystal does a pretty good job. She'll make a segment go on for 30, 40 minutes if necessary to properly push back on a lot of Saagar's bullshit. What I do agree with you, though, I don't think Saagar's independent either, bro. I don't think it's fair to say that. This dude is literally admits to being close friends with the vice president. That's clearly biasing his opinion on the fascist threat that Donald Trump represents to the populace of this country. And yeah, it does just feel like he's a spokesperson for the Donald Trump administration at this point. It almost is starting to piss me off a little bit. I'm not going to lie. When I watch Breaking Points, because I'm like, from just a journalistic ethics perspective, your perspective is clearly fucked now. Like, this ain't it, bro. You're clearly just like running cover for this administration, in part because of your personal connections to it. So I do think there's a little bit of an issue there. It's kind of tough to figure out how to deal with that, because obviously it's not like he picked JD Vance to become vice president. If anything, I imagine he was a little bit salty about that, because the journalistic ethics reasons I just mentioned, right? He had to disclose it a million times and stuff. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because by the book, Saagar has, to his credit, done what you're supposed to do, which is disclose, like, hey, this is my friend, JD. We've known each other before I did Breaking Points. We've known each other since, I think, before JD was a senator. And
oh, yeah.
That's a relationship that we've had throughout our lives. We've both pursued our own career. JD does not contribute monetarily to Breaking Points. JD does not have any editorial oversight at Breaking Points. However, the elephant in the room is, yeah, like, let's just, like, if one day we woke up and Griffin was the vice president of the United States, right? We would be like, fuck, like, sometimes I really want to criticize Griffin, but I also, like, that's my boy. Like, I feel like I should have the stones to call him up and be like, dude, I think you're shitting the bed on this policy right now. Like, I'm your homie, so I'm not going to put you on blast today, but you got like 2 weeks before I'm going to have to go out there and be like, I don't care, he's my fucking friend. You know what I'm saying? But it's your homie. So you, as a human being, you feel inclined to be loyal, right? And I actually think it's a good thing to feel loyal to your friends, but you're right that also it's a balancing act between, because I also think you have to be really loyal to your audience. And so it's a real pickle, as they say. It's a real bind. It's a jam. I appreciate Breaking Points a lot for being so transparent about everything. They do not take any corporate money. They are entirely funded by their viewers. They do not read sponsorships. You're not going to see the Polymarket, Breaking Point Studio, all of that stuff. So I think they have so much going for them. But it's hard to argue with the points that you made, Gavin. It is, and I don't know. Saagar pisses me off so much. It's kind of like there are weeks or months where I'll be like, you know what, Saagar's actually, he's been making some decent points, and you know what, he'll kind of like say things that I'm like, you know what, for the right, you're not so bad. And then like George Floyd will happen, or like, January 6th will happen, or something.
Speaking of January 6th, it actually did seem like for a while he was off the Trump train until JD Vance got picked as Trump's VP. For a while he was like, I'm past Trump. This is a cancer on the Republican Party. Can we please move beyond this? It's criminal. It's a distraction. It's annoying. It's dishonest. Trump has no actual ideological core. Saagar was saying these things for a while about the Trump movement, but then JD Vance got picked, and again, that's his homie, that's his boy, and I think it's signaled to him that now Trump is actually taking America first seriously because he picked my friend, who's such a committed warrior for MAGA.
I think it has something to do with that. I also think it has something to do with how miserably everybody else performed in the primary. And there was just no hope that there was, you know what I mean? Like once it was like there at the beginning, it was like, is Ron DeSantis going to be the guy? And then Ron DeSantis was so clearly not the guy that everybody in Republican media was like, I forget everything that happened. I'm going to go full bore on the Trump train.
Yeah, 100%. I think that too. But either way, it's definitely interesting. And just to throw up one last comment, from this comment section, I think this one's pretty good and very, very, accurate. It kind of touches on something interesting. This guy says, in reference to Saagar, "You all right, bro? For a guy getting everything he ever wanted, you're sounding pretty fragile." And I think that kind of speaks to the hollowness of this movement, right? Even though they are getting everything they want, even though, their guy won, it still does seem like there's a real insecurity right beneath the surface. They can't just take the W, right? Like, who gives a fuck? From Trump's perspective about this stupid bishop thing, like, who fucking cares? Most people wouldn't even have heard about it. Most people would have already moved on about it if he hadn't have tweeted about it, if he hadn't have made it a big scandal. Like, who fucking cares, bro? You won. You're the president. It's kind of the same energy as going after Ann Selzer, the poller, right? It's like, bro, you fucking won. Who cares that she was wrong? You won. You're the king of the world. Just fucking go have a Diet Coke and enjoy your status as the king of the fucking universe. Why are you pissed off about a bishop? Why are you pissed off about Ann Selzer? Why are you suing, random people who said something mean about you? Like, aren't you happy?
To be fair, I think it's so hilarious that he sued Ann Seltzer. I'm sorry, but I also, as somebody who was extremely pissed at Ann Seltzer, for my own selfish reasons,
Because you lost 500.
For my own selfish reasons, I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, you know what? This is the most Trump move ever. His commitment to the bit is, it can only be admired. You can only look at it and be like, Jesus Christ. You got everything in the world. You're the most powerful man. You're now $55 billion richer. But you're like, you know what? In New York Post, they wrote about me, and it was a disgrace, is what it was. It was a disaster, and they're going to be punished, and they're going to be litigated, and let me tell you what, they're never going to write again. They're never going to do it. They're going to be teaching. They're going to be teaching somewhere you don't want to teach. Yonkers. Anyway,
I think Biden should have pardoned Ann Selzer. I don't know what she missed out. She's going to.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there,